Okay, so now we'll talk about the sulci and gyruses of the medial surface. In the previous two videos, we'd finished the superolateral surface. So now we need to know that there are a total of 7 sulcuses and 7 gyruses on the medial surface. First, let's start with the sulcuses. So our first sulcus will be here. So I'll place 2 sulcuses here. First, you need to know that this is superior, this is inferior, this is anterior, and this is posterior. Okay, so these are our first 2 sulcuses. So these are the parolfactory sulcuses. So this is the anterior parolfactory sulcus, and this is the posterior parolfactory sulcus. So you have 2 sulcuses, that is anterior and posterior parolfactory sulcus. After that, we'll go to, so this is this long line, this is our cingulate sulcus. So this whole thing, this is our cingulate sulcus. So this is our cingulate sulcus. Okay, so 1 is the posterior parolfactory, 2 is anterior olfactory, and 3 is a cingulate sulcus. Okay, then after this, we have to look into the callosal sulcus. Now this is the callosal sulcus right here. So this is the callosal sulcus. We call this as the callosal sulcus. Okay, this is the 4th sulcus. After this, here, this sulcus is called as the suprasplenium sulcus. Now, how does this sulcus get its name? So you have your corpus callosum, and it has 4 different parts. So first there's a gyrus. So this is the rhodrum, the gyrus, then trunk, and then you have your splenium. So the part which is anterior or superior to the splenium is called as suprasplenium sulcus. After the suprasplenium sulcus, we have 2 sulcuses right here. So it's in a Y shaped. We have 2 sulcuses. This is called as parieto-occipital sulcus, and this is called as calcarean sulcus. Okay, so in total you have 7 sulcuses. So first one is posterior parolfactory. So you have posterior and anterior olfactory, parolfactory. So these are posterior and anterior parolfactory. And then the third one is a cingulate, callosal, which is this one right here, callosal, suprasplenium, which is in the superior aspect of the splenium part of the corpuscle callosum, parieto-occipital sulcus, and calcaneal sulcus. So a simple way to remember all these 7 is you can use the mnemonic: any person can catch corona, take precaution. So here A and P are for anterior and posterior parolfactory sulcus. C is for cingulate. This C is for callosal. This C is for calcaneal. S is for suprasplenium. There is nothing for the T. P is perioccipital. So any person can catch corona, so take precaution. So you can remember all the sulcuses by this mnemonic. Now coming to the gyrus. So first we'll start with the gyrus between the anterior and posterior parolfactory. So the gyrus between anterior and posterior parolfactory, this is called as, I'll write this with pink. So this is called as parolfactory sinus. So parolfactory gyrus. So first we have our parolfactory gyrus. After this, between our post parolfactory and this, we have para terminal gyrus. Okay, so our second gyrus will be para terminal gyrus. After this, our third gyrus will be, see, this is our cingulate sulcus, right? So the cingulate sulcus along with one more sulcus is dividing this part into two. So we have our, see, this is the anterior part and this is the more posterior part, right? So because this is more anterior and this is more posterior. So this anterior part is also called as medial frontal gyrus. Okay, so this part, this on the anterior part, it's called as medial frontal gyrus. So this is medial frontal gyrus. And the posterior part, this gyrus is called as paracentral gyrus. So this is paracentral gyrus. Okay, so now we're done with four gyruses. One is in between, one is behind, one is while it's divided by the two parts of the cingulate sulcus into anterior and posterior. Now we'll come to, see, here you have, this is a triangular shape, right? So here the gyrus will be cuneus gyrus. So this is cuneus gyrus. Cuneus gyrus is between the parieto-occipital sulcus and the calcaneal sulcus. So that is the cuneus gyrus. Now, since a cingulate is here, this part, this entire part is called as cingulate gyrus. So this entire part from the cingulate side, from the cingulate sulcus to the suprasplenium sulcus, this entire part is called as cingulate gyrus. So this is the cingulate gyrus. Now here, between, if we draw an imaginary line here, this part, it's quadrilateral in shape. So this is our precuneus gyrus. Here between the parieto-occipital sulcus and the calcaneal sulcus, we had a triangular shaped gyrus which is called as cuneus gyrus. Here a quadrilateral gyrus which is between the upper part of the cingulate gyrus and the suprasplenium gyrus. This part is called as the precuneus gyrus. So in total we have seven gyruses. So to revise, there are a total of 7 sulcuses on the medial aspect, medial surface. So starting with the posterior and anterior parolfactory, then above we have the cingulate. After the cingulate we have the colonal cilius which is present on the corpuscle callosum. After that we have the suprasplenial gyrus which is placed superior to the splenium part of the corpus callosum because it has 4 different parts, and then the parieto-occipital sulcus and the calcaneum sulcus. Now coming to the gyruses, first we'll start with between the posterior and anterior. So here we have our parolfactory sulcus because it's anterior and between the anterior and posterior parolfactory sulcuses. So we have our parolfactory gyrus. Behind is a paraterminal gyrus, and the cingulate gyrus divides this part into two, the anterior and the posterior part. The anterior part is called as medial frontal gyrus and the posterior part is called as paracentral gyrus. After that we come to the triangular part which is between the parieto-occipital and the calcaneal calcaneal sulcus, and this is called as a cuneus gyrus, and that is a triangular part. Now the quadrilateral part is a precuneus gyrus which is from the upper part of the cingulate sulcus and the suprasplenial sulcus. Between the calcaneal sulcus and the cingulate sulcus, we have our cingulate gyrus. So we have a total of 7 sulcuses and 7 gyruses.